You beat it. 0 to 60, man.
Whoa, what can you say about that? An absolute dream buck.
He's down right there, baby. Let's go.
He's down right there. Dude, you freaking did it. Oh, man.
Insane night. Season on, game on.
Welcome back to another week of Midwest Whitetail. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the girls' hunt from this past Thursday. Super exciting for me, gonna be a memory I never forget. We actually already have the Euros back, and I wanna give a shout out to my buddy Doug with Midwest Wet Tanning. If you guys are in Eastern Iowa or in the area looking for someone to make a Euro for you, Doug does a great job preserving all that intricate detail, bony anatomy in the nose. Comes out with a beautiful product, and he's got a fast turnaround. Got Bella's buck right here. You just see how heavy he is. Dug through the shed pile, found his shed from last year. What's cool about this buck is he's got a canine, a single canine. He didn't grow it on the right, but an upper canine. If you guys Google that, it's really rare. The internet says 1 in 10 to 20,000 whitetails will have an upper canine. So that's kind of a cool feature. And I've got Bryn's buck as well, Hank. Girls are super excited to have these back already. We are out here on the piece I closed on earlier in the year. It's across the river from the River Bottom Farm. I've been super busy the last month and haven't gotten all my projects done, so we're out here getting stands hung today on some of these food plots. For those of you that followed along in the summer, I had that split G2 8 buck out here as a 5 or 6 year old big framey deer. Unfortunately, he's not been around for the last 6 weeks, so I don't actively have a target out here. So it's a good time for me to get some work done, get these stands in position. We've got 2 days left of youth season, including today. So this afternoon and tomorrow afternoon, I'm gonna focus on getting the boys out, see if we can't get them a buck. We've got temperatures in the 80s, so I'm not gonna make a move on any of my deer, but we're gonna try to see if we can't get the boys one. Now, we're coming at you on Sunday here. You know, this is, we don't often drop episodes on Sunday, but there's a big cold front moving in to the Midwest on Monday. And so we thought we'd release this episode a day early to try to bring you some pertinent information. We'll talk about what's going on with this front and then some strategies that we all use to try to take advantage of these October cold fronts. So the wind is gonna switch Sunday night into Monday morning from south to north. The high ends up being in the 70s where we've had upper 80s and 90s, so a significant temperature drop. And we're gonna have north winds out through Wednesday afternoon. And we're gonna have lows in the upper 40s, lower 50s. So it's a really nice temperature change. That northerly front's gonna get a little pressure rise in it, and it should get some of these bucks on their feet. So I have not made a sit with the bow in hand yet, and I'm excited for this cold front that's coming in on Monday. Targets for me, I'm gonna be focusing on a buck we named Apollo last year on the Mount Olympus farm. And so this year he's a big framey 10 with nice wrapping tines. Last year, he was a really nice 9, wrapping tall 9. I just wasn't sure if he was 4 or 5, and so I just put him on the no shoot list. And this year, he got quite a bit bigger, big, beautiful 10. So I have last year's information to use because he was on the farm quite a bit in a particular area. And then in the last 3 to 4 weeks, he's moved in and he's doing very similar things. And so I'm studying some of those pictures and making some decisions based off of that. But these last 2 weeks, he's been active, moving on the north part of the farm around an area I call the L plot. We made some hunts out of it last year. I've got rut greens there and beans. He's been active just flirting with daylight right there. And so I think this cold front, we have a good opportunity to hopefully lay eyes on him and hopefully get him in bow range. He actually was daylight in the morning quite a bit on one of my little bow plots in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And I was considering hunting him in the morning today and tomorrow, because right now, although it's hot in the afternoon, it's like 60 degrees in the morning. I wouldn't be afraid to hunt early season in the morning. A lot of that is based off of trail camera photos and entry and exit. The only reason I didn't go is I just don't have the right wind for that one particular spot where he's been. I mean, years ago, I used to hunt every morning. I never took any time off. I just love to hunt. Now I'm a little more picky. And of course, early season, going after particular mature bucks, they tend to be back in bed before the sun comes up, and then you try to get them coming out to food in the evening. But I wouldn't be afraid to hunt in the morning. A lot of it is just entry and exit. And so knowing your property, and this goes for the afternoon or the morning, knowing where they bed, knowing where they feed. Can I get in and out? You know, one of the risks about going in the morning is blowing them out. And if they're more likely to daylight in the afternoon, then why ruin your afternoon sit? But if the conditions are right, I definitely would consider it. And then focusing on food sources. And so right now, the white oaks, I mean, they're dropping a ton. There's a great mass crop this year, and it's really in the bur oaks, which is a very appealing acorn to the deer. And then greens, okay? This is where your clover, alfalfa, or your brassica plots come in, your rut greens plots. Most of the soybeans have dried down and defoliated. I do have some late planted beans that are still green, but we're getting to the end of that green period. So I'd be focusing on green food sources and then acorns if you got them. A lot of this information comes from cameras, so as far as scrapes go, they're starting to scrape. And if you've got an active scrape line or the buck you're going after is active, I mean, no better time to make a move than when these cold fronts hit in early and mid-October. But we're gonna get back to the house and get the boys, get them out for a hunt tonight. Next, we're gonna jump over to Owen, let him tell us what his plans are for this cold front. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Good luck out there, be safe.
Well, I've got to give a special congratulations to the Reed family. Those were some awesome hunts, and I bet those are hunts they won't soon forget. So congratulations, guys, that was awesome. Now let's talk about this weather front we've got coming in. You remember last Monday's show, I talked about I probably wouldn't even take a shot until we get some changing weather. We've got that coming Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's going to go from 85 to 65. And those are the kind of triggers I'm looking for. So we're going to get the temp differential, a switch in wind direction. It's going to go from a south wind to a north wind. We also have a rising moon in the evening that coincides with the normal feeding pattern, which is another one that I like to watch. When you get 2 or 3 of these working together, it can be dynamite. Now granted, it's pretty early in the season, so I'm not going to go crazy into like my best rut spots or anything like that, but I might even take a few morning shots. You know, my thinking is you're going to have a pretty good hour in the morning, a pretty good hour in the evening during these cooler days, and so I'm going to try and capitalize on even hunting mornings here for a few days. And you know, I'm only going to hunt spots in the morning where I feel like I can get in clean, so it's going to be back toward cover, away from the ag fields, away from the food plots. You know, try to be back in, catch them slipping back from food, back to cover, back to bed. And then the evenings will be just the opposite. Again, I want good clean access. I've got a lot of stuff like mowed trails and switchgrass. You know, the switchgrass is 7-8 feet tall, and so you can slip right through those trails and they can't see you. So it's going to be a lot of stuff like that. If you've just got one deer you're hunting, I'd be very cautious this time of year about bumping him. That's always a risky run, but you know, I'm fortunate I've got several deer I can go after, so I can just pick and choose, you know, maybe hunt one spot one day, go to a different spot the next day, so keep from burning these spots out. But it should set up dynamite. I will bet you somebody on the team's gonna kill a nice buck during those 3 cold days, or cooler days anyway. It's gonna be, you know, mid-60s. Really nice weather, but those are the triggers that I look for right there. And good luck, guys, if you're going out. I expect to see some deer. We'll see what happens. Now we're gonna join Josh. You know, he hasn't decided for sure if he's gonna go after that 6x5 or not, so I'm interested to see what he says about that.
All right, well, I am very excited to see what Owen's gonna get into tomorrow. You know, at the end of the day, with all those different targets, I just have a sneaky suspicion that Owen's gonna have a mature buck in front of him. And building off of what he wanted to hear about, which is the 6x5, the first thing I wanna talk through before we jump to my plan is on the beginning of this episode, you saw Mike talk about the fact that there's only 2 days remaining in the Iowa youth seasons. And we all got a phone call last night that we were very, very excited to get. The Tony buck is officially down. The boys got him. And you know, there's always those bucks that seem to be one step ahead, And the Tony deer on the river farm was no shortage of that. You know, I can't think of how many different people have tried hunting him, and you know, for it to come together at this time of the year, I know that Mike and the kids are very, very excited. It'll be a hunt that they don't soon forget. And you know, you think about these really high temperatures that we've had, Mike's last 2 hunts are pretty good illustrations that it can still happen if you have the right plan for the time of year. So excited to bring that one your way. But moving into 6x5 and my plans for this cold front. Number one, I'm just really excited to get in the woods. I haven't made it out yet for my first hunt outside of the youth hunt that we had last weekend. But to keep a long story short with 6x5, hunting him, the surprise is that he actually did show up a few days ago. If you followed along in the chase or in the off-season shows, 6x5 is a buck that has lived there on the farm for the last 3 seasons during the summer, and then once fall shift occurs, he typically is just gone and then returns in the late season. And so all the plans that I've made for him were in the hopes that it somehow influenced what he did early October into the rut, but more importantly, it's just trying to have a plan for the winter when he seems to return. However, 2 days ago, October 2nd, he actually was on the property, and he was very close to the food plot we put in at the pine tree. He was on the east side of the pond, makes his way towards the bean field, and I got a couple of different pictures at like 10:30 or so. And despite that, you know, there is this inclination that I want to be the camera and be there the first time he daylights. Though he's in the area, I just don't think he is living on the property. And I think that, kind of like Owen said, hunting one buck, I think rolling the dice here is just not the right move. Let him, if for some reason he is around, get tighter and tighter, give us a little bit more information. And I think what I'm going to end up doing to maximize my, you know, hunting on this cold front is we're going to go to the gridiron. And the reason why, if you haven't seen it over on the chase as well, we have 3 different bucks that have shown up on some scrapes that ultimately have not been that long after daylight. They, you know, rotate through on different days, but you know, you're talking like 8:15, 8:30, and I just have a lot more reason to believe that, like, when I look on a map and I think about a north wind, the bedding is just a lot closer to where they're coming out in that alfalfa field. There's a big 9 with the split brow, big 8 with tall brows, and then there's also a wide 10-pointer. The 8 with the big brows and the 10, they're both bucks from last year that, you know, when my buddy ran cameras, we've been able to put together some pieces. And so it is probably worth going back to look at some historical info. But the biggest thing about this front that nobody's talked about quite yet is that in addition to the temperature drop, we're getting a precipitation event as well. We're gonna get quite a bit of rain tomorrow. And so that's another reason why I feel like setting up over a scrape's a good idea. Paul and I can get in there on a mowed trail that we got put in, you know, roughly a week and a half ago. And despite how it goes, whether we see the deer or not, we're gonna learn something. It's a new property, you can see a long way, and I will definitely have a grunt tube with me and just hope that the bucks get up on their feet early enough and we learn something. So it's a big front, it's a big opportunity. We're gonna be in a tree. I just don't have as tight of a plan as I wish I did, and I think that that's gonna give me my best chance to be in the game, but also reserved enough to not blow up the 6x5 opportunity. So if you guys are gonna make it out, I hope you have a great hunt. These next few days are gonna be worth taking the time to get in the tree. And now we're gonna jump over to Gavin, who, after talking with him, I'm pretty shocked about his plan, but I'm really excited to see how it's gonna come together. And we're gonna jump to that now.
Well, I hope you guys have been enjoying the show so far. I think it's safe to say that all of us here on the team are very excited for these next few days. The weather's looking awesome, especially compared to what it is right now. It's hot, it's like in the 80s, windy as you can tell. So we are all very, very excited to hit the woods. Myself and Aiden here included in that. So, you know, the last time I was on the show was, I believe, back in March when Ryan and I did some scouting out there on the public, checked out a few new areas. And really since then, you know, it's been all hands on deck, Chasing November wise. Really appreciate you guys for all the support through that series. It's my 3rd year editing that one, and it came together great. And again, can't appreciate you guys enough for all the support with that. After that, got out in my normal public land spots, scouting around, checking out the areas, what has changed from year to year, from last year to this year, and getting cameras deployed, some in old locations, some in new locations. And essentially, right now, there's nothing that's showed up so far, which is definitely strange. You know, in the past, there's been fairly decent activity through September into October. Either way, though, I do feel like there's gonna be an uptick at some point here soon, with this cold front likely being that trigger that gets bucks in there. Lots of acorns this year, a ton of white oaks that I'm sure is gonna be a running theme this year. As far as plans for these next few days, I was contemplating with the good acorn crop in there, with this cold front, it may be the day that a deer does show up in there. However, without much intel in that area, gonna probably just wait and see if this cold front does trigger something to be in there, because we do have a few days to hopefully get back and get after one should he show up. So we will see as far as that goes. Aiden here, he has been doing a lot of scouting. He's been here since the spring, one of 3 of our Midwest Whitetail interns. Very grateful for these guys. And Aiden's been putting in a ton of hard work, got his Iowa residency, and he's actually way more in the chips on a good buck than I am, so.
Hi, my name's Aiden. I'm this year's intern. I'm from Wisconsin. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised into a hunting family. First started hunting with my dad when I was 11 or 12. Shot my first buck with him right behind the house, so that was pretty cool. Since then, I've been lucky enough to tag quite a few good bucks. And last year, I actually self-filmed my very first hunt. I actually killed that deer on the same property I killed my very first buck. So I got to recover him with my dad, and it was, something I'll never forget. Really cool memory. And fast forward to this spring, I came down here to Iowa, met all the guys, got to do some shed hunting out at Mike's farm. Did a lot of turkey hunting with Josh. That was really fun. Learned a lot doing that. And this summer, I've been learning a ton behind the lens, behind the computer. Just last week, I got to go out for my first hunt. Got to film Mike and Bryn. That was really cool. Got to see some giant deer there.
Yeah.
And it's been an awesome experience so far, filming with the guys. So this summer, I got my hands on my first bow. Been shooting a lot at the house, doing some practice out of the tree. Been shooting pretty good with it. I like it a lot.
Yep.
And in between the work, I was able to get my Iowa residency, got out and did some public land scouting. And with that scouting, I actually found a really nice buck. It's a nice 10-pointer. He's been showing up pretty regularly, about every 3 or 4 days. He's in there hitting acorns. There's a lot of good early season food. I had some pictures of him in velvet. He was hitting a bean field, and there's even some apples in there that he was feeding on, so a lot of good early season food, so even some does in there to keep him happy going into the fall. So I'm excited. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I mean, essentially, he's on a pretty decent pattern, and I believe the last picture would have been October 2nd, I believe, and so hasn't been on since. And this is very similar to the first time that I got a crack at the 6x5 back in October of 23. He wasn't on camera for a few days. Sure enough, we go in there on the cold front expecting him to be daylighting, trying to be the camera, that whole idea that we've talked about many times, and sure enough, got a crack at him. So, hoping to kind of make a repeat of that, and it seems like it's setting up pretty solid. Again, lots of food in there, big hardwood ridges with, like Aiden mentioned, apple trees, which is an awesome, added element in there. But that's gonna be, as a guy that doesn't have food plots, hunting on public, that's gonna be my main focus for this time of year, is that acorn crop. Again, it's very solid this year. I have not been in this location. Aiden's keeping it a secret from me, but it sounds like there's a lot of acorns. And so overall, it seems like we got a really good play. So very excited. I'm hopeful that some of the bucks that I'm looking for show up. However, I could not be more pumped to get you out on your first bow hunt. So I think the plan as of right now is to give that a crack. It seems like a great spot and a great setup. We're excited. We'll keep you guys posted. As always, we really appreciate you watching. Hope you're able to take away at least a few ideas for how to maybe tackle these next few days. Excited to bring you guys the updates as they come. Definitely be following us on socials, as I'm sure that as action happens, we'll be posting it as real time as it gets. So thank you for watching again. If you are getting out, good luck, and we'll see you on the next one.